James, real quick, I just want to say I actually got engaged in Scotland this year, and I cannot wait to go back
Hey.
to your beautiful country. I actually have a little William Wallace statue chilling on my desk. Um, we went to Edinburgh, but I've been told what I need to do is rent a car and drive around.
Yeah, no, there's a hell of a lot from Edinburgh, Glasgow. I would say for me, driving around, go up the West Coast, and check out some of the inner Hebridean islands. There's some really, really beautiful places to visit,
Yeah,
definitely.
I truly cannot wait to go back. So let's talk about your new film, Speak No Evil. I'm sure you've talked about this a lot, so I'm going to try to start with one that you've not been asked yet. I need to be taken inside the choice for when we first meet him, why he's wearing white Air Force One, because I feel like that's such a unique and specific pick. And when I've been on trips to Greece or Rome, I feel like I've met that guy wearing those shoes. Were you involved?
Awesome.
Were you were you involved? Not hopefully not that guy, but the guy that he's pretending to be. Did you have
Yeah.
any sort of input on the way that the character looked, spoke, acted beyond
Yeah.
the core stuff?
Yeah, no, definitely. I had been on holiday to the Canary Islands with my family a few years before, and I bought white. They weren't Air Force Ones. I think they were white Adidas. They were just completely white. And my wife was like, "Why have you bought dad's trainers for vacation?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And everybody just thought they were funny. And I was like, "They're just white trainers or sneakers, as you guys call them." I don't know why that's funny. Loads of people, loads of cool people wear white trainers, I think, don't they? Maybe they don't. But everybody thought it was funny. And I just thought at the beginning of the movie, and I'd reflected this with these like Hawaiian shirts and his dumb kind of like swimming shorts, swimming suits. Um, I just wanted him to be a little goofy, to kind of in some way try and camouflage or disguise his kind of latent threat that he has to present in the film as well. And so even physicality wise, I was probably bigger and musclier than I've ever been at the point that I started this film. But I made sure I was carrying a little bit of extra body fat, and I tried to make him look a bit softer at the beginning of the film, and then leaned out towards the end of the film so that when I had to appear more threatening and stuff, it was a bit more defined and animalistic. How he sounded, we needed him to be from the West Country, but a lot of West Country accents. I don't. We maybe sound to some people, not to me and not to people from West Country, I'm sure, a little bit more rural and parochial. And I'm going to get slaughtered for saying that probably. But that they don't sound that way to me, and they don't sound that. But on film and TV, there's a sort of like there's that kind of country vibe that comes from it, which doesn't necessarily have a place in our collective subconscious as threatening. And so I definitely wanted him to sound like he was from the West Country, but I sort of deepened it and I sort of leveled it out a little bit. So he's definitely got a West Country burr, but it's not a twang. Do you know what I mean?
You know, it's funny that you say that we don't think of like being from the country as threatening. I'm a city boy through and through. I'm from New York. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the book In Cold Blood by
Yeah,
Truman Capote. Ever since I
yeah,
read it in school as a kid, I'm talking like, fifth, sixth grade, I've had a terror of open spaces like that and just the fear of really being out there on your own. So I think obviously this film taps into that. But it's interesting to
yes.
hear you say that that's not something that people would associate with a threat. Whereas, like to me, come and you're from Glasgow as well. Like that actually is something to me that is scary and threatening.
I think it can be. I definitely think it can be, but I think that unfortunately, and I'm not criticizing the accent here, I think that just the way it's portrayed in film and television is often this particular accent. I'm not talking about all country
Right.
people or all
Gotcha.
country accents.
Gotcha.
I'm talking about this particular accent is quite often employed for comedy, which
Mm.
isn't which is unfair and unrepresentative and all that. Um, I also wanted him to sound like he traveled the world, and so that when he'd said he was a doctor who'd worked abroad and worked for Médecins Sans Frontières, that it sounded like he'd not just spent his entire time just outside Bristol. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He really truly, it felt like he was a man of the world at the same time as having his roots in the dirt and in the earth and in the soil of the West Country. But I totally understand what you're saying, and I agree with that. I just think it's a specific thing to this accent that unfortunately the way it's been portrayed and sort of pigeonholed and stereotyped again and again and again, it just feels like we're going to be watching somebody who isn't threatening and who's probably going to be comedic. And look, that might be my bias there as well, but that's definitely what I've seen that accent be portrayed as a lot. So I was really excited to show a different kind of person with that kind of sound coming out of their mouth.
I'm going to pay you a compliment that may make you a bit uncomfortable given its scale. Your performance reminded me a lot of Jack in The Shining, and
Hmm.
to the extent of that, the look of psychosis just sort of bubbling right beneath the surface, the way your eyes would glaze over and the way that your mouth would twitch. What's the process to getting yourself to those very unique places? And then I'd imagine almost harder coming back down from them. I imagine it's pretty taxing, and then a tangent to that, the subtlety of mania that you display in your face is so specific and so unique. I have to wonder, do you practice your psycho faces in the mirror? Because they were that spot on to me.
No, I don't think so. I think you've got to ask what it is that's so scary about people who are mentally tuned differently. And that can be psychosis, that can be sociopathy, that can be neurosis, that can be paranoia, that can be delusion, whatever it is that's making your brain work differently from the average bear. Why is that scary to people? Because all those different versions of mentally different are scary to people, I think, a lot of the time. And it's why people feel uncomfortable around people whose brains work differently or might be, in quotation marks, unhealthy. Um, Mentally so. And I think it's because they are afraid of different things. They are made happy by different things. The things that make him excited and full of joy, nobody else can see. And the things that scare him and anger him, nobody else can see. And so it's hard to rationalize his behavior, therefore. But once you know what it is that makes him happy or makes him angry, makes him afraid, makes him feel love, um, that's what makes him scary to me. And then my reactions are just normal reactions to things that aren't normal to everybody else. And that's what makes it strange, I think. So for example, he he hits his wife, Kira, near the end of the movie because he believes she's fucked up. And he's angry because the good guys are getting away. But when she hits him back, when she smacks the shit out of him back, he pulls her in and he hugs her and he loves her, and it's the two of them again. Like, it's not that he's a crazy violent person that likes violence. Well, it is. It's that he needs his the way he expresses love is through violence as well. And that's different. We don't see that all the time, but even just the threat of it in the air gets him excited and gets him happy. And you don't know why he's excited or happy or excited and charged or excited and angry, but it's because of the threat of physical violence. And it's not just that. There's plenty of other examples of things that nobody else can see that he can sense and that fuels his vitality. The other thing as well is that I just loved about him is that he's clearly a bad guy. He's clearly a malevolent guy, but he's so capable of joy and happiness, and
Is he
that's
though? Is
frightening.
he not just faking it though? Is that not classic sociopathy?
But I think maybe sociopaths are capable of experiencing happiness and joy. That's frightening.
Hmm.
If sociopaths are just like, oh, well, they're clearly unhappy and they're just faking it, then it's like that's them in a box and it's easy to understand them then. If a sociopath's actually capable of experiencing happiness and joy and contentment, you're like, oh wow,
Hmm.
that's that's terrifying because that's what I want.
Hmm. So in the right context, I think remakes are can be a great thing. I'm somebody like the touchstones that I go to are when my mom saw Jaws when she was 18. She was so scared she had to stay in her parents' bed that night. By the time I caught up to it, in the year 2003, I'm like, I don't get it. I could tell this shark is fake. Now, I'm not saying we should go and remake Jaws, but that's sort of the point that I'm trying to get to. There's also Star Wars. By the time that was introduced to me, the magic of what it captured back then was lost on me because I had seen sci-fi films more advanced since then. So
Yeah,
remakes could be a good thing. But there's also the inherent element of remakes that raise eyebrows in terms of artistic merit. So not only is this film a remake, but it's a remake of a film that came out 2 years ago. How did that
yeah.
factor into your thinking at all when deciding to take on this role? Did it ratchet up the stakes for you? Was that um, sort of enticing to be like, check out what I could do with this role? I guess what I'm trying to ask is, how did that knowledge factor in to your choices here? Choice to take on the part.
Do you know what? When I read the script, I just thought this is a great story. I'd like to do it. And the fact that it'd been a film recently and previously, and more importantly, recently previously, um, uh, didn't factor in too much. I think I was aided by the fact that I had not yet seen the original film, and I elected not to see the original film until the day after we finished filming our movie.
Cool.
And so for me, I was just making a film
Hmm.
and getting to do my take on it. And because I hadn't seen the original film, I was unencumbered by any kind of fear of doing the same thing as the original cast member at certain times, or doing different things from the original cast member at certain times. I think the movies are slightly different. They've got very different ending.
I'm gonna get to
Uh,
that.
yeah, and they've got really different tones along the way. I think the discomfort that the audience experiences, that we want them to experience, is still present in both movies. And I think the humor that we found that was very specific to, I guess, not just the clash of cultures of two Scandinavian couples, but two transatlantic couples, but also beyond that, an urban couple. It was also the clash of cultures of urban versus rural as well, I think, much more. Um, that really helped. And I think ultimately the thing that I loved, the biggest clash that I loved, was the fact that you've got this malevolent couple who've got a great fucking relationship and they really like love each other passionately. And you've got this good guy couple who've got the kind of relationship you would never wish upon your worst enemy. And that clash, that's disturbing.
Hmm.
The reality of that is disturbing. Not all good people are happy, and not all bad people are unhappy.
So you touched on the ending. After I got done with your film, I read up the plot of the first one because I had heard that the ending was nuts. And when I saw the ending of your film, I thought, okay, that's nuts, but not enough to cause a stir. I read up the plot for the OG one. And I thought, well, fuck me, like I've got to see this. So I fired it up, clicked ahead to the ending, and it is so heartbreaking, so brutal that I actually had to text my fiance just to be like, I love you, just because that's how like shook
Oh,
I was by it. Now, you have a unique perspective on this. You're a European actor in American films who's been all over the world. Why do you think the writers, producers, whoever toned down the ending to the extent that they did? Are we a bunch of pussies? Like, because an ending like that is so powerful that I have a hard time um imagining walking away from that for any other reason other than wanting a palatable ending to sell the film. But because it's the ending, that's something that they could have hid and you could have not known until you walked out totally shocked. So I'm curious what your perspective is on changing the ending for the Western viewer.
I don't know, to be honest with you, because again, don't forget, I'd never seen the original film
But you have now.
when.
But you have now.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's I can't tell you why they changed it and what they thought. I think that the couple Louise and Ben are different from the couple in the original film. Um, for a start, they're American, and I think there was a belief that an American audience, which is primarily where this movie stood to make its most money wouldn't accept that. That might be right or wrong, but maybe that's what guided it. I don't
Well,
know.
that's what I'm trying to get at. Are we soft? Like what like why can't we accept the ending? And I'm sorry to talk about an ending for a film that's not yours, but it was so that this film was already a word of mouth film. So I could only imagine the stratosphere that that sort of ending would have put it in. Not saying that the ending
You
of
think it would? You think the movie would have done better if it
I
had that
don't
ending?
money wise or like conversation wise.
Conversation wise, I think the film's done really well, and I think review
Absolutely.
wise, the film's done really well. So I'm not necessarily worried about that. I
Yeah,
also think we've done really well with audience scores as well.
for sure.
Um, and so I don't know. I don't know. I
Yeah,
think.
I don't know if there's right or wrong regardless. I'm just curious as to what your thoughts were, considering that the ending is even though it's a two.
Do you know what I think? Do
Oh,
you know what I
yeah,
think? I think
please go ahead.
Paddy, my character, um, like fucking pontificates on some pretty toxic railway lines, and he has got some objectionable views that I think at times you could argue, and at times you're just like, that's fucking plain wrong, dude.
Right.
And I think if he doesn't get it at the movie validates his points of view. I'm not sure that the original movie had Paddy expound his toxic masculinity quite as much verbally.
There is that one
Um,
line in both films because you let me do it, which I think is a very kind of crucial point
yeah,
to the whole mindset.
that's not why I think he has to get it at the end. The reason I think he has to get it at the end is because if he doesn't, the movie validates his points of view.
Hmm.
And I think that his points of view, generally speaking, in the movie aren't okay.
What do you think the ultimate point of this film is? There's the basic view of don't talk to strangers. Then there's the deeper sort of commentary on the social interactions that we go through and what we allow ourselves to be put through. But what I take from
Yeah.
it is what it says about human nature. Whether you like it or not,
hmm
it's a dog eat dog world. And to survive, you've got to have some dog in you. And viewing it from that prism, do you believe that this film is ultimately right in that sense? Because, like you said, Patty says some shit that you're like, dude, that's just wrong. But my main takeaway was, I think Ben Scoo's character had to become a bit of a dog, a bit of a man to survive that. So that's kind of my main takeaway from this film.
I think that most of us in society survive abiding by the social contract of riding a middle line between the dog and the socially compliant member of society that plays by the rules, doesn't stab somebody in the street to take their food off them because they're hungry. And uh, our part of that contract is that I won't take from you, I won't steal from you, I won't hurt you, I won't kill you. Um, we're all going to pay our taxes and we're all going to be looked after by the institution of society. Um, to make that successful, you have to suppress the dog, you have to suppress the animal, which wants to take and wants to hurt and wants to dominate and wants to make sure that their bloodline continues and the next animal doesn't. I think that both couples, certainly both men in both couples, represent extremes on both sides, where Ben is so socially compliant, his animal is so suppressed, and Paddy on the other end, his animal is so manifested and so released and so free, that neither one of those examples of masculinity or manhood can successfully get by being like that. Now, they're both extremes of it. Most of us are in the middle, and we have little bits of animal, and we have little bits of us where we're just so compliant that we're not even there. And I think the film is a comment upon a certain part of society these days that maybe younger people are less susceptible to now because they seem to speak out a lot more and call things out a lot more. But a certain demographic that is still, you know, we take it. We take what society does to us. We take what the government does to us. The taxes get raised. We take it. Sometimes we're so socially compliant, we don't even vote. Um, um, that's like the ultimate expression of like social compliance, where you're just like, I'm not even taking part in this most civilized way to fight for what I want in life. And Paddy's just completely rejected that way of life and gone the other way. What is the point of the film? What is the point that the film is trying to make? I don't know, but I think it's definitely commenting on just how much shit society will take, how much shit we will take before we call it out, if ever. And Paddy and Kira have seen that weakness in society, and they prey upon the weakest in society, in terms of the weakness being these people will take it. They will let us. They will let us. So we will push them and take them. Because ultimately, Paddy and Kira could have got what they wanted the minute they came to their farm.
Right.
But they didn't choose to do that. They wanted to enjoy themselves as well. It's a game that they enjoy playing. Certainly Paddy does, and takes great pleasure out of it. There's glee in it. There's like it's a line in the film. It is like a cat playing with their food instead of just eating it because they're hungry.
So, because our timing got screwed up here, you're going to be spared from the X-Men stuff. Lucky you, James. But I do want to ask you about Wanted. I was going through your films, and as far as I could tell, that's the first time that you've ever led a film of that scale and that size. I mean, I know that you were in Chronicles of Narnia, but not as quite front and center
Yeah,
as you were in this. And then there you are sharing scenes with fucking Angelina Jolie and
I
Morgan
know.
Freeman. What was that like? What pops in your head when I bring up that film?
Do you know what? I was so young. I think I was 26 or 27, and just sort of taking it in my stride, and really not really sort of taking it in. It's not until I'm a bit older looking back at it and I go like, holy shit, man. If I had been taking it in, I might not have been able to do it.
Dude, it's like
Um,
Angelina Jolie in like Angelina Jolie prime, Morgan Freeman, and then there you are, fresh faced as hell. It's crazy.
I did have one moment on that set where I was speaking to Morgan and I was asking him about his career, and I was like, what's the favorite film you've ever done? And he said Glory. And I said, why? And he went, because of the fact of it. And I can't really do Morgan Freeman, but clearly, as you can tell,
You
every
can
now
do
and
a
again
lot
I've
of
managed to
voices. I'm surprised you can't do
every.
that one.
Do you know what I can? I do a lot of I can do a lot of accents, a lot of voices. I'm not particularly good at impressions.
Mm.
Every now and again when I've been drunk, I'm like, oh, I got him there a little bit. But he said because of the fact of it, and when he said that, I remember just being like, holy shit, I'm in a film with Morgan Freeman. Oh my God. And I got like kind of out of my stride a little
Yeah.
bit and kind of panicking and stuff, so it made it easier. But other than that, you're just sort of in it, trying to make it work. But in hindsight, I have looked back on that movie and some of those movies I did run about then just going like, oh my God, how the hell did I get away with that when I was so not as experienced as anybody that was around me? And I'm like on set calling shots and going like, we should do this, we should do that. It's the chutzpah of youth, isn't it?
Yeah. Hey, James, congrats on the film. Congrats on a great career. I also want to wish you luck on California Scheming. I know,
Thanks, man.
I think you told Will, Sean, and Jason that you were in pre-production or is filming starting soon?
Yeah, we're in prep. We're about 3.5 weeks out from shooting, so we are just all hands to the till. And there's honestly, I was not prepared for prep. There are not enough minutes in the day. I do not stop from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. Carving out time to do an hour of press for Speak No Evil, coming to home streaming now, is was like a feat, was an organizational feat in itself. It's been amazing. I'm really enjoying it. I can't wait to get cameras rolling though.
Well, I thank you for your time and good luck. And as far as I can tell, you're not the first filmmaker to feel that way, man. So,
That's what I hear. That's what I hear.
cheers, James. Thank you, man.
Take care, man. Bye.
Thanks, team. Bye bye.